Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are ready to start on the Apollo program. And you know what that means? The Saturn 1B. Yeah. Not the Saturn 5, the Saturn 1B. We're talking, if I can get it pulled up here, there we go, this bad boy. The Saturn 1B. So this was an upgraded version of the Saturn 1 that was used for delivering the CSM of Apollo 7 to low Earth orbit. It was also used in the future for delivering CSMs to Skylab, among other things, including the Apollo-Soyuz program. But we're not going to get into that just yet. We're going to build one of these guys, and all we got to do is get it into low Earth orbit. This is mostly as a test of the CSM. This is not going to have the lunar module attached to it, and this is going to be not quite full scale. That's for sure. This is not nearly as powerful as the Saturn V. So we know that this is, like, what do we know about this rocket? Well, we know for a fact that its first stage is actually powered by 8 rocket motors, and the second stage is a single J2, also on LOX. So RP1 in LOX for the first stage and LH2 in LOX for the second stage. That's all reasonably fine. For the time being, let's grab our Mark 1-3 command pod. This is what we're going to be using for our CSM going forward. And how are we going to bring that back? Well, for now, let's put on a Mark 16 XL parachute. I'm also going to put on a pair of drogue chutes, and hopefully that'll be enough. So we're going to grab a pair of radial mount drogue chutes, and we're going to slap those on about there. They're teeny tiny, no doubt about that. Now, I do want to have some science on this thing. Although, to be honest, the majority of our science is going to be located on the lander module. So really what we should have here is something like a 2.5 meter service bay, which I'm going to rotate like that. And inside of this service bay is going to be primarily things intended to support the flight for the landings on the moon. We're not ready to land yet, but we can definitely put some battery banks in here. That's certainly something that would be useful. We probably want a few more of these, to be honest. And this is going to be recovered. We need to keep that in mind. We should probably put a flight computer of some sort in here. That would be a handy thing to have. So something like a computer flight unit. We only need 1 of these. Well, technically, I think they had 2. They had 1 in a backup. We could do the same. We could do... I don't know what just happened. But we've got 1 there, and we can do a second one there. So there's our 2 with our backup. And then inside of the rest of this service bay, what do we want? Well, I actually kind of want to put in some monoprop tanks in here. Is this the only monoprop tank that we have right now? Hang on. Monoprop. Yes. This is the only monoprop tank that we have at this moment. So I kind of want to put these guys in kind of like this, except rotated and moved. So putting them in like that, and then we would move them up to be positioned like, that's kind of hovering. I don't want it there. I want it to be positioned about, that is still snapping. I turned snap off. Okay, that's very strange. It snaps here, but it doesn't snap here. I guess we'll have them be here. Okay. And we're, of course, going to need a way to dock this together with our LAM, right? So I think we actually probably ditch the Mark 16 XL parachute. We know that our LAM is going to be using a lunar excursion module, which is going to be something kind of like this. I want to check to see... Yeah, this is the same sizing there. So what this would end up meaning is this would be something, and this is in the future, but this would end up being something, all we have is the docking port junior. That's not awkward at all. Okay, well, we could definitely do something about that, and that'll be a future upgrade, but we can do something along the lines of this for the future. So this has RCS, it has oxidizer, liquid fuel, and monoprop built in. We're probably going to put in some additional monoprop. But we would then want to put on probably a parachute and a backup chute on here. So we would end up having a radial mount parachute. I'm going to do 2 of these, but I'm not going to use symmetry for it. I'm going to place one here and one, I hate it. One here and one here. Okay. So something along the lines of that so that we're not obstructing the hatch. So we've got something like that going on. We're not going to have the Lunar Excursion module at this time. So this is going to be our first iteration of the CSM, right? We can see here what the CSM looked like. We're kind of close. So this would be our capsule up here, right? And then this would be our service module. We need some monoprop thrusters here. And then this is likely going to be a fuel tank and an engine for our purposes. So that would be what would end up happening here. Let's slap some monoprop on here. So some RCS thruster blocks. It doesn't really matter which one we go for. I'm going to go for this one. And we're going to, actually that's, I think, the smaller one. Yeah, I want these bigger ones. So we're going to put one, where did that just go? Okay, it went through. We're going to put one here, and we're going to put one here. And then I want to snap those into position to make sure that they're evenly positioned. There we go. Something along the lines of that. We've got plenty of monoprop, plenty of power. Now we need to have a re-entry portion here, right? So a 2.5 meter heat shield, like that. That'll do. And then we'll have a decoupler here. This is, of course, what we're intending to bring back. So we'll have a decoupler here. We're then going to have a fuel tank of some description. I feel like that's a little big, to be honest. So maybe like an 8. Orange is almost appropriate, actually. If we look at this photo of the CSM here, that seems okay. So that could definitely work. And then from there, we would power this with a poodle, probably. And this does not have a lot of fuel. Now, once we get up into space, how much delta V is that? 1,300. So that should be plenty to bring this thing back from the moon, which is what this is intended for, is to bring it back. So that would be the idea there. Let's split off our chutes here. So these are the 2 drogue chutes. Let's split them off like that. We can merge these stages together. That'll be absolutely fine. Now, this does have almost like a fairing. If we look at the actual Saturn 1B here, not almost a fairing, it straight up has a fairing up here. So this is not exposed, right? There's also a launch tower up here. And that's something that we can definitely slap on there. So actually, these are, I think, the CSM monoprop blocks right here. So if that's the case, then there's basically no fairing on here. This does definitely widen out from 2.5 meters. The question is, are we going to widen out from 2.5 meters? Well, first things first, we should put our launch escape tower on here. So that is, I think, the big launch escape tower? Yes, something like that. That'll do for now. And we can't recolor this, sadly. Not in KSP1, anyway. So for now, we'll do that. And then as far as our engines go, we're going to be going out to an even wider size, right? So we want to get a TD25 decoupler here. Then we want to bring this out, ideally. Do we have anything wider than 2.5 meter right now? I don't think we have an adapter for it, at any rate. We've got, yeah, these are not as wide. So we're going to have to go with Rockamax size for now for our Saturn 1B. I guess that's okay. So looking at the actual Saturn 1B here, I'm going to call this like the upper stage here, or maybe like this. And then this would be the bottom stage. We can see there's fins here. We know there's 8 engines and a decent amount of fuel tanks. So we're going to have an upper stage here, and this is going to have an additional poodle. That's going to be something kind of like that. And then we're going to go for a TD25 decoupler. And looking at coloration here, this coloration is actually perfectly fine. So then we would have something along the lines of an additional 32 fuel tank here. So that would be this guy. And then this should really be, actually, I'm going to go with 2 16s because it gets us that nice stripe coloration. So that'll be fine. And then beyond that, we have a bit of a change up in our coloration. And from here, I'm going to go to the 32s. And it's something kind of like this, except it's also striped. It's a little odd in how it's striped, right? Like, looking at this, there's definitely a differentiation between these stripes. No doubt about that. But I don't think we're going to be able to capture that, unfortunately. So we're going to go for something like this, and then we would go for probably like this. A couple of 32s, since we don't have access to the Jumbo 64 tank at this time. So it'll be something kind of like that. And then we're going to need an engine plate. And we're going to... This is an EP18. We don't have an EP25. Okay. We might not want to use an engine plate here then. We know that this is going to be 8 engines. So we just do something like this. And what happens if we toss on, say, swivels? I mean, yeah, they clip together, something fierce. We would definitely go with compact swivels, but even then they clip together. We could attempt to spread them out a little bit, which probably would be what we would do. Something kind of like that. That's maybe a little bit better. And what's that thruster weight? 1.17? So that's not amazing. I think instead what we're going to do is we're going to go for, like, quad skippers. We're going to make these compact as well. So quad skippers, something kind of like this. Then, in these, I hesitate to call them gaps, but in these gaps, we would have something kind of like that. Although I would like these to be... Hang on. I want to get those back. Can we clip these up inside to have them be approximately the same... Yeah, this will actually work. Approximately the same height. So kind of like that. That's 8 engines, and that should be better on lifting capacity. 2.44. Okay. Yeah, that's a little much. We're going to back off on our skippers to about 60% thrust. That puts us at 1.68. That's decent. So I'm going to color this black and white as well, and I'm going to have these two be white to just kind of try to capture some of that striped, but it definitely doesn't capture it. So we're going to need our tail fins. Looking at this, it sure looks to me, if we look over here, we can see there's a fin here, 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 here. That looks to me like there's 8 symmetry on those fins. So in my estimation then, that means that we would do something along the lines of, I don't like the symmetry that we've got here, but something along the lines of that would be our target. And we could go with dark fins to try to capture the dark coloration of the bottom of that rocket. In reality, they have kind of a stripe on them, but something along the lines of this. And I don't know, this orange sticks out quite a lot. I'm going to make it white because it's white in the full rocket image from the pad. I do wish we could go out to a wider fairing, but we do not have the tech for that right now. So we'll have to have this do for the moment. This is, of course, going to be Apollo 7. There have been previous test flights, but this is the first crewed one, unless you want to count Apollo 1. We're not going to count Apollo 1. If you want to know what happened with Apollo 1, there was a minor mishap on the pad. It went boom. People died. It was not great. It was very not great. So we're going to skip that one for now, and we're starting up with Apollo 7, which is the first crewed flight after Apollo 1. On Apollo 1, they never even actually launched. That happened during a dress rehearsal, if I remember correctly, which is very unfortunate. So I think for the moment, I'm going to ditch our Clampetron Docking Port Junior. I don't think there's a point in bringing that when we could just stack the launch escape tower straight on like that. And that is what we're going to be calling our Saturn 1B for the moment. So that should do for now. Of course, the Saturn V is going to be a lot more powerful than this. And the Saturn V will debut in the next flight, if I recall correctly. Double checking here. Yes. Also, I want to point out, Apollo 7 took place just under 2 years after Gemini 12. That is such a fast development cycle. That is insane. 2 years later. Granted, it wasn't the Saturn V. The Saturn V didn't launch until 2 months after that. Insanely fast development cycle. So we're going to double check our staging here. These two stages could be combined together. That's definitely a thing. This stage is, I think, a problem here, is it not? It absolutely is. So that would go here. That's the launch escape tower. That's fine. This would go here. Good thing we checked our staging. That definitely could have broken things. Okay, I have no idea how we're going to do with potential engine overheats with their exhaust. We'll see how that goes. And this thing should be relatively stable as is. I don't foresee any major issues on that front. I don't know about having this on 8 symmetry. Maybe 6 would look better. I don't know. And maybe not having them the black coloration. We'll see. But let's get this flight. I mean, we're not going to see, are we? We're never going to launch this rocket again, now that I think about it. At any rate, let's get off the pad. Let's do this. We're bringing Jeb, Bill, and Bob, and we're heading on up to low Kerbal orbit. We do not need to get anywhere even close to the moon now. Hi, moon. Fancy meeting you here. We are on our way, but it'll take some time. Okay. Let's see how things are going to go with our... Well, actually... We're burning through this fuel quite quickly. We've got 60 seconds of fuel left here. That is definitely burning through the fuel quickly. This is not a heavy lift rocket, right? That's for sure. But if we're burning through the fuel that quickly, then what I want to do here is I want to just push straight up. Once again, we're taking a relatively shallow ascent trajectory. Try to push up as high as we can, get to 20 kilometers, and head over to the horizon at that point. 20 kilometer apoapsis. So we're going to start that gravity turn quite soon. About now, in fact. With all of this engine gimbaling and all of these fins, I'm not expecting any major stability issues. Yeah, this is a very stable rocket. I am, in fact, having a hard time moving it further than here. Although now it's starting to get a bit better. Okay. This is a very stable rocket. No doubt about that. We're almost over to the horizon. Almost. That required a lot of turn pressure to get us here. And it's really wanting to yank us back. Okay. So we're just parking here for the moment. We are pretty low right now. Let's activate our launch escape system at this point, and we'll decouple that. Although we're still pushing it along. But that did get us a little bit of speed anyway. We should really be locked to prograde right now, I think. Indeed. Yes, this is decoupled, but we're just pushing it along with us at this moment. So this thing is definitely a little bit weak, but the point of it is to only deliver things into low Kerbal orbit, right? And it definitely succeeds in that. We're delivering our CSM right now, and that is a great sign. I want to check here. Yep. Our RCS is indeed getting RCS flow from the tanks in here. Perfect. Assuming that we don't have the... Okay, yep, that's all fine. No problem there. So time to apoapsis is currently holding. It's going to start going up very soon. And to that end, I want to head down directly to the horizon. So once again, we have a bit of an underpowered first stage. That will not be the case when we build the Saturn V. That's for sure. The Saturn V is going to be a lot in terms of power. That'll be our most powerful rocket in this entire series, actually. So let's just get ourselves the acceleration we can. I'm going to dip this over like this in hopes of shaking off our nose cone. No, it's not happening. Okay. We're not succeeding in that one. I guess that's fine. We're just going to target 100 kilometers here. But this is all about testing this CSM, right? So we just need to test our crew service module. And then after that is going to be Apollo 8, which is our first orbit of the moon, which technically we have enough in this to orbit the moon. even without the Saturn V. I want to be clear about that. Technically, that's true. If we really wanted to be efficient, we'd ditch this boodle and just flow this fuel down here as well. But that's not our goal for the moment. So we're going to hold it here. This thing really doesn't want to disconnect from us. Okay, there we go. Now it'll disconnect. So at 100 kilometers, we are going to add a maneuver here and push that right on out. Cool. Something about like so. So this is just our first orbital test of the CSM. Nothing too special yet. It's next episode where we're going to get some science. And we're going to have to replace some of our monoprop in here, almost certainly, with science experiments. We'll have to bring some along, is what I'm trying to say. We're going to want to bring science for our moon orbit. That's for sure. So we're about 2 minutes away from our circularization burn here. 1 minute. And almost overshot that there. 20 seconds. 10 and 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 mark. Cool. So this thing is definitely a little underpowered. There's no doubt about that. It's got lots of thrust to weight, but it lacks in the fuel department. I'm not shocked about that, given what we've got with our engine setup. Yeah, I'm deeply, deeply unsurprised. So this is our low Earth orbit demonstration flight to demonstrate the viability of the command pod. So at this point, what we're going to do is we are going to ditch this fuel tank because I want to demonstrate the usage of the pod's internal engines itself. So we'll do exactly that. Of course, they're exactly the same engine. We've got 1379 meters per second in it. We could downrank this engine if we really wanted to, but we've got nice reaction wheel going on here. I like it. We can definitely maneuver around with our reaction wheels. We've got our RCS, which we can maneuver around with very effectively. That is actually extraordinarily effective. Cool. Keep in mind, this command pod also has built-in RCS. You may have seen it firing there. So if we flip it around here, there's the built-in RCS firing. How much are we tearing through our monoprop? Okay, we've used up a bit of it, to be honest. About a 19th of it in total. So that's mostly going to be used for docking. So that's absolutely fine. We have definitely proven the in-space maneuverability. Now we need to prove that they can come back safely with what we have put in here, right? So we need to bring our periapsis on down. That's about 6 kilometers. That should be okay. And we're going to ditch this fuel. We'll need more fuel than we just used for returning from the moon. For sure. This should be sufficient. And we're just going to bring this right on down. So we've got our low Kerbal orbit demonstration flight proceeding nicely. Are we going to splash down? I didn't even look. Actually, yes. That looks like a splashdown. Cool. So here we are positioned retrograde. We can definitely slow down with monoprop if we really feel like it's necessary. I really don't feel like it's necessary. This should be absolutely fine. So we want to clear the continent here, which is going to happen quite soon. We can see that our impact point is currently in water. And that looks great. We are decelerating already. Definitely seeing a lot of drag off of this heat shield. No doubt about that one. Holding attitude very, very steadily. I like it. Impact biome was grasslands there for a moment. We might actually have a land landing here. We're slowing down pretty good. We'll see if we manage to shoot past. Hopefully, but it doesn't actually matter. A land landing is definitely not what this was designed for. In reality, that would be quite a problem. In Kerbal Space Program, it's not exactly a problem. Yeah, this is going to be a land landing. So that's relatively fine. We are going to send out our drogues and our main chutes. SAS can now be off, and we're going to be coming down at a bit of a jaunty angle because of the way our chutes are set up. But this should be absolutely fine here. We're going to have a land landing, which is certainly non-ideal for this sort of a capsule, but It'll be interesting to find out if anything like these monoprop tanks or anything blow up. We'll see. 9 meters per second. That's not bad, 500 meters up. We might have a couple of things blow up on impact, though, at this speed. So we'll see what ends up happening there. We definitely don't want to be physics warping. Okay, so the heat shield blew up. I'm checking the status of monoprop tanks. They all seem good. We only lost the heat shield. Okay, that seems acceptable. I guess we'll grab a surface sample, since we could get half a point of science, and we'll recover that vessel. And that, of course, is Apollo 7 done. That's not significantly different from what we've done in some of the Gemini flights, right? So that's not a huge differentiation there, but that was just a proofing of the CSM. And the next flight, we're going to head out to the moon. And that's going to be interesting. The real question is, how are we going to get the bigger fuel tanks for the Saturn V? I don't know. That's going to require a fair amount of science. We might have to do a Block 2 upgrade of the Saturn V after we've done our first moon flight. That might be what ends up happening, because I think we've got heavier rocketry here. Advanced fuel systems is what we would need. Yeah, we would need 160. We would definitely get that. Definitely get that from the moon flyby. There's no doubt about that. So that's all good. I think that is definitely a plan then. We do need to get paid here, and we will definitely do that. There we go. There's our payment done. And with that, it is time to put a cut in here, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're heading off to the moon. But I do want to say, it's likely we're going to have to start splitting some of these moon missions into 2 parts. They're going to start to get long. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Andy McGar, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.